creatures are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location somewhere in the deep and mossy creek bottoms of King Creek, Arkansas. Live from Forest Tower Studios, brought to you by the Fringe FM and KTOK Digital Broadcasting. This is Lighting the Void. And now, your host, Joe Rupe.
That's right, we are broadcasting from the Forest Tower Studios in the mossy creek bottoms of King Creek, Arkansas. I'm Joe Rupe. We are live on lightingthevoid.com and the Fringe FM as well. I don't know what in the world is going on with Skype. I'm ready to just, ban Skype. Never use it again. I don't know, but it's been giving me a hard time. I love it. It's Wednesday night. John DeSouza is going to be here with us. It's going to be awesome. We're having a great week last night. Jason Quitt was on the show. And now X-Man John DeSouza is going to join us. So thank you wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web. If you're listening on our affiliates or just on the Fringe FM or on Spreaker, on TuneIn, TalkStream Live, wherever you're listening from. It's awesome to have you. It's been an incredible week so far. What an incredible show we had last night. And as soon as I posted that thing on YouTube, it started getting a lot of views real quick, but it's getting even more downloads, so I'm just so happy for all of you guys and your support that you can give me. It is Tuesday, April the 24th. The night's a little wet here in the natural state, and it's drizzling down, but I sure love the warmer weather. I like it a lot better than I do the nasty cold weather. So don't forget, also, we're going to be on Spaced Out Radio on Saturday, too. This Saturday, we're going to be there interviewing Michael Vera, and it's like a 1-2-3 punch this week for me, because these are like three of my favorite people, and we're going to get into why that is. So yeah, if you want to call on the listen line, just in case your data goes down, we have a TalkStream Live listen line, which is 701-719-3971. But yes, tonight we're going to be talking to X-Man John DeSouza. You've heard him before on several shows. He's also on Gaia now, so this is going to be an incredible show tonight. I know you're going to enjoy it. The thing about it is finding the truth. That's the most important thing that we got to that I'm focused on right now. And when it comes to the truth, you know, I've talked to some investigators on this show. Of course, we've had quite a few of them actually, but I've never gotten to speak with a former FBI guy, I guess the closest would probably be James Clarkson, I would think, would be the closest thing to that. Hey, everybody in the Spreaker chat, how are you? You know, I know I used to get in there and just chat away, but I've got so much stuff going on now, I'm trying to focus, and so I do want to, I see you guys, I'm watching you. I love you, and don't think that I'm not paying attention to you, because I am. Especially when we do questions and stuff. But I'm really trying to focus more on the conversations now, and I think it makes for a better show. But I do see each and every one of you. Not to mention that when I open it up, it kind of crashes stuff, too, because Spreaker does that every now and then. But this Mercury retrograde thing, I've never believed it until today. I've had so many technical issues trying to get this thing going. I'm not even certain the audio isn't bouncing around right now, but you know, I'll that's live though, but I'll fix it on the edit. But right now, I think it sounds pretty good. I'm monitoring it, but when is it not Mercury retrograde? It seems like every freaking week it's Mercury retrograde, and that wouldn't bother me if I didn't work in the tech field. You know, that's all I do is audio production. video production, graphics. I need everything here in the studio, you know? So every time, it just seems like every other day, oh, it's Mercury retrograde again. It's Mercury retrograde again. Anyways, that's all. I guess that's my rant for that. But, you know, thank you, by the way, we did receive a couple of donations, and I really appreciate that. You guys, I want to talk about that a little bit. Just to be clear, if you go on the internet, you're going to find a lot of people asking for donations. And speaking of Michael Vera, he can attest to this. When you put, you know, Late Night in the Midlands is his network and the Fringe FM is mine, and just doing one radio show alone, let's say you did a radio show 5 nights a week, you're never going to get any good at it. I didn't get a chance to go to broadcasting school. I didn't get I guess any training in this. So you guys that have been with me the whole time, you've been watching my training through this. Don't think that I'm not, because I'm looking up all kinds of stuff. I'm studying and reading books and taking classes. And so as we go down this road, not only are you going down this truth-seeking path with me, but you're also kind of going down this path with me on cultivating what I'd like to call my new profession. And you cannot do it. You really can't do it, especially host 2 shows, run 2 websites, help all the hosts, and do everything. And you can't even work a part-time job. I was telling Dennis and just not a little while ago that I never told anybody this, but when I tried to work a part-time job and do all this, it literally put me in the hospital. But I don't like to talk about that stuff. I don't want to, you know, complain. I feel like a crybaby when I do that. So when I say that, you know, you guys' donations really help, they help with everything. This whole organization, this whole thing is run, owned, and even produced and invested by you, the listener. So the cool thing is, as long as we have the Fringe FM, YouTube can't take us down. Nobody can take us down. Facebook can't take us down. We could be, even if something happens with Spreaker takes us down. We'll always have the Fringe FM. We'll always have that stream. We'll always have the network. And I want to thank you guys for that. It's all because of you. And that's a fact. And speaking of which, if you do find anything of value from this show or the network, the Fringe FM, then you can donate if you want. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. I know what it's like to not have $20 in your pocket. Trust me. Or maybe just $20 is the last thing that you have in your pocket. If I'm talking to you right now, if you're hearing me, I don't need your donations. And any guilt or anger you may feel about what I'm saying right now, let it go. I'm just glad you're listening to me. I'm very appreciative of it. As far as everybody else, sometimes people are like, you know, you don't want to donate because you think someone else is going to take care of it. Well, I have a few people that take care of me right now, and they know who they are, and they take care of the network. And I really love you guys. But at $5, whatever you can help with will do. If not, then just spread the word, like I always say. All right, so some stuff in social media. We've got some new followers that likes Destry Brady, brother. Thank you for liking the page. Tommy Wood, a special thanks to Barney Sissel, Jacob Sims. Big special thank you to Jacob Sims and Dennis Koch. Another thing I thought I would do, and I'm not really good at this, but someone told, a good friend of mine said, maybe you should brag on the air. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because a lot of hosts do that. You know, they brag and they're like, this is where you find the truth. This is the ultimate radio show for everything radio. I guess there's a reason why. So I figured I would read some of this stuff. From social media about Lighting the Void. Really love your old radio style. With the banter and the weird news. Keep it going. Stephen De La Cruz says, badass podcast, brother. Nineveh Shadrach's straight honest about what he was talking about. This was very enlightening and awesome. Best interview I've ever heard by him. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Insightful, funny, and important in terms of the topic and modern history. I love your show, Joe. Keep up the great work. Let's see. Overprotected says, I sure think you asked some amazing questions, things others don't always ask. Very, very cool show. Let's see. Just Bob said, you have great guests. Wow. Here's my favorite one right here. You ready for this? I ought to have a drum roll for this. The host sounds like Billy Bob. If you mean Billy Bob Thornton, then I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, I'm from the South. My voice I have a Southern vernacular. I've tried getting rid of it. And the one time I did try to get rid of it, someone could hear me trying to get rid of it. They said, don't do that, because I can hear it. And everybody loves it. But every now and then you'll get these jackholes that I don't know why they hate. Why would they hate a Southern accent? You hear how I say that? Why? I can't say why. It don't sound right to me. Why? Why? I don't know. But if I try it, I sound terrible. So thanks for the quote about that, I guess. He gave me I don't know if that's a compliment. If you're talking about Billy Bob Thornton, he's pretty famous, so I'll take that. Let's see. Divine Matrix 4 says, I just found your show the other day. I just wanted to say you're a great host and keep up the great work. Also, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but he says, I've listened to many of interviews. This one is different than all the rest. I've never heard a talk like this before. I'm sure if anyone else noticed it, it's a great job. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I really do. See, those little things like that are just as good as a $5 donation to me. Last night's show with Jason Quitt was really cool. That guy, his work is pretty much the culmination of the things that I've experienced. But tonight, down our truth-seeking path, we're going to discuss investigations the right way. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the things that John DeSouza has ran into. John DeSouza, sorry. I do have something here that I wanted to read to make sure if I can find it. By the way, did you guys know that 2018 World Press Freedom Index just released a deal that says that we're the 45th now. We've dropped down to 45th in animosity, a growing animosity towards journalists. Hostility towards the media has grown greater than ever has before in this country. The efforts of authoritarian regimes to export their vision of journalism poses a threat to democracies, so the climate of hatred is steadily more visible in the United States. Now, they evaluate, I think, every country each year, and the United States dropped down to 45th, so we're like, I think we dropped like 30 levels. I don't know. But everybody hates the media now. I'm pretty sure this has got to be talking about mainstream media. This cannot be talking about the alternative news that we do. Surely not. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And when I turn on the news, I do see everybody, especially Trump. That guy talks so bad about the media. And all of his followers, they're just going to agree with whatever he says. That's the problem with following people. You guys got to watch out. And I'm not talking about Trump people. I'm guilty of this. There's a lot of people that I idolize and follow. And what'll happen is when you do that, you'll fall into this trap of whatever they say, you just kind of go along with. And you got to watch out for that. Always think for yourself. I want to read something here from Barney. He was nice enough to share this with me and sent me an email. And he's got a story about a lucid dream that he had. So he says, Joe, I've always had a degree of psychic abilities. I was introduced to lucid dreaming a few years ago by a coworker of mine, but I never attempted to experience. On Friday the 13th of this month, which we all remember that day will go down in history. Out of the blue, I had my first and only lucid dream to date. I was walking near a large building among several people. I simply just woke up within my dream, and I was totally aware that I was dreaming. I even said it out loud in my dream. It felt very real and profound. I felt I could control the dream, and so I turned to a lady out of the crowd and asked her, "Hey, do you know that you're in my dream?" She got perturbed for some reason and said, "Yes, you invited us here." I walked out of there, and it just ended. I know this was real because it was different from a normal dream. In 1981, I had a similar dream that was very powerful. I was helping a friend build a house in 1980, and he passed away later that year. And in the dream, I was in that house, and he was there, laughing, and he told me, "You can have it." Now, at first, I thought he meant the house, but gradually I came to realize he was talking about the worthless material things in life and the pursuits that mean nothing. I mean, I'm trying to experience of out-of-body travel. I guess he's trying to do an OOBE, astral projection, at some point, and that he will update me. He says, "I'll update you." My life has been full of strange psychic experiences, and I've seen UFOs twice in my life. Thank you, Barney. Well, thanks, Barney, for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that, and that's really cool, man. When you wake up in a dream, it's probably one of the coolest things ever, and you finally realize that you can control things like that, and you're even getting to where you can understand the bigger picture and messages. And speaking of that, I know I pronounced this guy's name wrong. I called the artist that helped me with the logo Eric Techie, but his last name is actually, and I felt so bad when I found out about this, his last name is actually Eric TC. And he's known as the Wandering Polymath, and he's got some pretty cool stuff about dream exploration, and he's going to come on next week. So next week we're going to have Greg Carlwood from the Higher Side Chats is going to come on. And then the Wandering Polymath is going to be on as well. So that's going to be a pretty cool show. You guys, this is right. I can't thank you enough for taking it with me. All of you. We're not a very big show right now. You know, I never thought it would be, to be honest with you, but even the podcast, the people that listen to the podcast now, the episodes are getting a few thousand downloads just on the podcast, in the podcast world. I started out, I think my first episode, I got like, I don't know, maybe 50 or something. And now it's in the thousands. And, when I struggle, when I do this stuff, and I go back and look at the numbers and I read your emails and your notes and your messages from Facebook, whether it's Telegram, people sometimes call and they leave voicemails on the station. I really think that this is probably you guys are the coolest people I know. And I really appreciate you taking this ride with me, and we're going to do this again tonight. John DeSouza, former FBI agent, X-Man, used to hold a top-level security clearance. Man, oh man, I think this is going to be great. So, I'm getting all emotional. It's supposed to be one of those months. I don't know what the moon's doing or whatever. But all I'm saying is I have a very, very large feeling of gratitude that I have never felt before in my life. I think the last time I felt this much gratitude was on my birthday when I was 12. I'm 36. So that ought to tell you something. Anyways, enough of all that, right? You guys don't want to hear me sit here and wallow like a baby, right? You want to get into the truth-seeking stuff. So that's exactly what we're going to do when we come back. John DeSouza is going to be with us. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these words.
your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Wouldn't you love to have a really sharp memory? More than ever before, people of all ages are struggling with memory problems and brain fog. Whether your poor memory is age-related or due to the effects of chronic stress, you can now improve your memory while reducing stress with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. That's right, you get 2 products rolled into one. Some ingredients in Calm and Clever enhance memory and help retain newly learned information more effectively, while other ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce stress by maintaining healthy levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. To sharpen your mind and feel calm and centered, try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll love the way you feel and think. To order Calm and Clever, call 1-800-728-9948 or visit calmandclever.com. 1-800-728-9948 or calmandclever.com.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio with Joseph Rupe. Stay up to date right now, lightingthevoid.com.
This is Mark Eddy. If Pluto is your high school history teacher, Project Compass will point you in the direction of the truth.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
Each Monday night from 10 to midnight Eastern, we will bring enthralling guests to delve into the hidden history you weren't taught.
This could be the greatest night of our lives.
Join us on the Fringe.fm or in the Spreaker chat.
Oh, we're afraid to go with you, Pluto. We might get in trouble.
Follow us on Twitter at Project Compass or email us at projectcompass.show@gmail.com.
I think this situation absolutely requires really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part. We're just the guys to do it.
Class is in session with Project Compass right here on the Fringe FM.
Don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead. And listen to Shift Happens on the Fringe FM. Fridays, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Cortana out. Quack.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking angioprim, the pain was gone and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Come own the night with us. Hi there, this is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Every Monday through Friday, right here on KTLK, the Fringe FM, I'm going to lead you down a path of mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So whether you've seen a UFO, had a run-in with Bigfoot or Dogman, or had ghosts running around your house, this is the place to be. Spaced Out Radio, right here on KTLK.
Oh, you know what I like about me? This is Rich Giordano, host of the Paranormal Code. No, I'm serious. The show's on twice a week now, Sunday and Thursday, on the Fringe.fm and Spreaker, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. Yeah, It's 2 hours. It's live. And I do a show like you've never heard before. So you're going to come here, you're going to get your information, you're going to be entertained. But you're also going to hear the truth like, you won't forget. Like you've never heard before. And for those of you who've been following, thank you. Thank you for talking me into this extra night. Now I'm on twice. Great. Hey, good for you, right? The Paranormal Code. This means something.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Rupe. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths, and much, much more.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Rupe. We are live on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. Don't forget that I will be on Spaced Out Saturday with Michael Vera this weekend. It's going to be a really cool show. Now let's bring on our guest, John DeSouza. I said it wrong the first time, so it's John DeSouza has investigated and collected experiences on the paranormal topics for 2 decades. He was an FBI special agent who maintained a top-secret security clearance for over 25 years. He worked counter-terrorism and violent crime cases. And also during that time, he collected what he calls the real-life X-Files. John investigates the mysteries that baffle other investigators, events, and subjects not aligned to regular world paradigm, or our regular world paradigm, that is, of the paranormal revealed itself to Mr. DeSouza through his own supernatural experiences and those of countless others. He lives in the great Southwestern United States and devotes himself to paranormal research and writing. His books include The Extra-Dimensionals, True Tales and Concepts of Alien Visitors. Now, that book is about a stark revelation of where alien visitors are actually coming from and to where they are returning. He also wrote The Para-Investigators, and that's a collection of true life stories of supernaturally gifted investigators and even civilians who struggle to serve a society that does not yet accept their existence. And the last book that he's got out now, his recent book, is The Clear Hearers. It's the story of an investigation. It's a true story of a visitation and messages from an incredibly powerful source, and it recounts the author's lifelong investigation into the identity of the great voice, and it depicts the struggles of many clear hearers, historical figures who experienced that great voice throughout their lives. Mr. John DeSouza, thank you for coming on Lighting the Void. That's a real pleasure, man. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me on, man. This is great being on here with you on Lighting the Void. Just riding the wave and lighting the void here with you. And it is awesome. It was great. It's great hearing you last night with my best pal, Jason Quitt. Having him on last night, it was really fascinating. And especially when you guys were getting close to naming names and there were little pauses, like somebody was shutting you down there. I know how that feels too.
I've never had that happen. No, and I'm not hey, I promise you, I'm not that guy that goes out and says, oh, usually it's just a technical thing, but my phone, it doesn't do that. When it usually disconnects, it disconnects because of a connection loss. That was an interruption. You guys have never heard a busy signal on my line before like that. But every time it was doing that, when somebody was interrupting the conversation.
Yeah, very, very suspicious. Satchel Paige said, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean somebody's not after you. Right. So, it's very suspicious. I find it convenient. And, we got to, I'm a person who I'm always asked to name names. And I always avoid doing that because my interest is as an investigator, because that's my specialty. That's what I do, is being an investigator, especially in this kind of environments that don't want the truth to be found. And so what I always try to do is teach people their own methodology for real investigation, so that they can find out for themselves if a whistleblower is really true, if they're real, if their material is verifiable, is credible, if the information they're coming up against, it has any validity to it. Because the only way is people have to learn to parse this stuff for themselves. It's the only way they'll truly learn what the truth is.
Well, that sounds like exactly what I think about all of this. And when it comes to extra dimensionals, I've always questioned things, and you kind of validated those questions for me in your research, because I always thought, you hear a lot about flying saucers, and those are just real too. I believe in those, but I've always noticed in several videos and research, these beings of light that seem to come in through different realms or dimensions or something. And you talk about these plasma beings, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I first came to the FBI, I was familiarized with a case file. And I can talk about a small portion of this case file now because it's been declassified and it is available for everyone to look at vault.fbi.gov. And it is the document called a Memorandum of Importance, which was written by an FBI agent. It is the most suppressed document in all of ufology and basically in all of paranormal. And it is just a one-page memorandum written by an FBI agent that basically who said that who had an informant. And he said he had an informant who was supernormal. And from the context, it looks like his informant was an alien visitor. And he wrote this document in July 8th, 1947. And he put it out publicly to all the scientists, because he was also a scientist himself, former scientist. And so he put this out to the scientific community because apparently in 1947, July, there was a huge wave of UFOs across the earth. And scientific community were all asking, what are these things? What's going on? So he had this informant, and he wrote this document based on what his informant told him. The informant that apparently was an alien visitor himself. And this document has about 8 conclusions he was given. And this document can be found by anybody and downloaded by anybody at vault.fbi.gov. You go to that site, then you go to a giant tab / button that says paranormal, or it says paranormal unexplained phenomena. That's what the tab says, unexplained phenomena. So that's a whole section of investigations. And so you click on unexplained phenomena, and then a whole bunch of other tabs open up under that. One of them says cattle mutilations. The other one says JFK assassination. The other one says extrasensory perception investigations.
Oh, cool.
And then there's another one, the one with probably the most material in it, says UFOs. And then you click on UFOs and a whole lot of things open up. But group number 1 of documents, you go to that one, go to group 1 under UFOs. And then you go to page 22. And on group 1, page 22, right on there, it says a Memorandum of Importance. And you just look at that document, and that's the one that was written by the FBI agent who had that informant. And the conclusions that are on that document say, number 1, alien visitors are not physical. They are non-physical. They are coming from, and they are not coming from our space. They are not coming from the next solar system over, next galaxy. They are coming from other levels of reality, other dimensions. And he calls them lokas in the old Vedic language. He says lokas of reality, where they have to change their vibration, and then they change their vibration to match our physical vibration, our material vibration, so they can be here for short periods of time. And he says that's where they're coming from, and that's where they go back to. He says they go back to other levels of other dimensions. So this is all about, in 1947, he was writing about wormholes and gateways as being the way that these alien visitors get here. Not through locking themselves in tin cans and sailing, interstellar space. That wasn't how they get here. So he was revealing this. And he also said about UFOs. He said UFOs accompany these alien visitors, but he said, but there's no one inside of them. They are operating by themselves. And he implies that they are themselves alive, that they are somehow operating on their own. And they accompany these alien visitors in the same way by changing their vibration and materializing here in this world. And he also says they're not made of, these UFOs are not made of metal. They're made of some sort of radiant material that we could probably best understand as plasma. And so he also says their technology is so far above ours that if our Air Force ever were to attack them, it would be a huge catastrophe. It would be awful. And a few years after he wrote that, we saw what happened in 1952 over Washington, D.C., in some of the most protected airspace in the United States, when we had this huge UFO wave that came in over the Capitol building and basically just for 14 days, almost 14 days, just basically invaded all the airspace over Washington. And we had our entire Air Force go after them, and it was a catastrophe. It was awful because these UFOs did loops around them. They did face-to-faces. They did over and unders. They did maneuvers that made it very clear they could have destroyed every single one of those planes, of our planes, if they had wanted to.
Did we try to fire on any of them at all?
Couldn't. They couldn't, because it was like imagine a 5-year-old trying to punch an adult, right. An adult man. That's what it was like. So how are you going to shoot at something right. that can actually be in front of you, inches from your vehicle, going backwards, and then disappear from your view because it just goes to the horizon and then comes back and it's behind you? You know, they were playing with our ships, our jets like that. So it would have been impossible for them to lock on and actually shoot. And this went on for 14 days. And it was seen by thousands of personnel, military, civilian personnel, radar personnel. It was it was the most documented mass incident in the United States, in the history of the United States, because there was so many UFOs and there was so many of our planes going after them that it was a huge humiliation for every one of those jets. And it was so documented that in 1952, and most people know about this, it was so documented that they had to have a big giant commission, government commission, that basically made the findings. They did the old trick where they find the facts are true of all the UFOs, but then they flipped the conclusion at the end. It was I forget the name of the commission. It was named after the general who conducted the commission, and he basically found, yes, this really did happen. Here's all the evidence. Here's all the witnesses. Here's all the radar reports. Here's all the airplane reports that actually recorded all these goings-ons. And but then at the end, he said, but we're finding that even though it did really happen, it really doesn't. It's not anything that forms any sort of threat to national security, so we can basically forget about it.
Right. Yeah. In other words, you can't do anything about it, so it's better just to ignore it and have everybody else ignore it and hope for the best, right? That's
exactly.
What it sounds like they're doing.
Exactly.
But you had and if something like that happens just once, you got to know that they're going to be investigating that stuff until the end of time, dumping mass money into it, trying to figure it out. Because the one thing that the government don't want, especially our military complex, is to be outdone by anything, you know.
Yeah.
So they're going to get into it.
Yeah, well, that incident in 1952 over Washington, D.C. was the reason why there has never again been in the Western Hemisphere, there's never again been the employment of an entire Air Force to just go after UFOs. You know, that's never again happened where just a mass sort of attack has gone out against them. We've had, one or two jets, one or two helicopters at a time go out, but never again an entire Air Force go out after them. It's never been repeated. And that's because that happened in 1952. So anyway, that connects back to the file and the case file that I was given when I first went into the FBI, that I went through and that I studied and had to investigate. And it really opened my eyes when I received that file and had to really see what was really going on with UFOs in the modern world. It was an amazing, eye-opening experience.
Now, I shared an article on Twitter that I believe that you wrote in the magazine, and you had your own experience, right, when you were a child with a UFO. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. When I was about 10 years old, I had my first observation experience, and it was basically I was in New York City, and with my parents, we were at some giant wedding reception with hundreds of people out in somewhere in New York City, and it was me and a bunch of other little kids found each other and just kind of spilled out into the night. We were playing about 1 a.m, deserted streets of New York City, and we got like a mile away from the hall where they were having the party, and we were just playing, and one kid hit me in the stomach. I went down on the sidewalk. I was looking up at the sky, and the rest of the kids said, "Oh, he's really hurt." So they all ran away and just took off and went back to the rental hall. And I was out there by myself, and I was looking up between 2 tallest buildings I'd ever seen to that time. And there was the whole sky was a beautiful starry night, but there was one dark spot way above these 2 tall buildings, and it looked like a black ink cloud. And then suddenly from the bottom of this black ink cloud came these spotlights. I could see these spotlights come out, and then I had this look like a old-fashioned UFO. I mean, just coming out with lights spinning in the bottom, and it just came out towards me. And I just felt that spotlight hit me, this bluish-green spotlight I've heard many witnesses talk about since that. And it just went right through me, and you feel like that thing is examining every cell in your body. And I just looking up at this thing, and then suddenly 2 teenage girls appeared on my left, and they were just screaming and shouting and holding on to each other and looking up at the same thing I'm looking at, Pat. And one of them yells at me, "Little boy, you better run home. The world might be ending." And just kind of woke me up, and I just took a step back out of that spotlight, and the thing reversed course and also went back up into that black cloud, and the black cloud disappeared, was gone. And they were gone, and I just took off and ran back to where my parents were, tried to tell them the story, what happened. And they told me I had to wait till I got home, because you can't talk about those things in front of general public.
Right. What did they believe you? Did your parents believe you, though?
Yeah, later on when I talked to them, well, my mom did. She was more amenable to this sort of thing. And so she did believe me. And about a week later, these things sometimes they take information back to whoever that they collect, these UFO vehicles. And apparently the meeting, whatever the decisions were made, and I had my contact experience at my parents' home later, about a week later. I was just sleeping. There, and they suddenly the room changed. It changed temperature, everything changed in the room. And it was about I'd say about 3 a.m, and I was just trying to stay awake for some reason. And then suddenly my body went stiff, and I felt hands at my feet and my head, and I saw the ceiling coming closer, and then suddenly I felt what I assumed to be children, like small children that were like my size or smaller, and they were climbing up on nothing and somehow going further up towards the ceiling. And I was kind of like a half-filled helium balloon, and they were able to just move me and lift me up with very little effort. And I just saw that ceiling coming closer, and I got really close. I just hit against it with my forehead, and they were passing through the ceiling. So they lowered me, and wherever they put me, I stayed there in the air, again, on top of nothing. And they were examining the spot where my forehead didn't go through, and then they tried again, and it was the same result again.
Wow. It's almost like they were trying to take you on a ride, and they were trying to figure out why you're not going through the ceiling like they were. That's crazy.
Right. And they were very confused, but every time they bumped my head, I was able to move my neck more and more, and I looked over towards my parents' bedroom, which was next to mine, and the door was wide open. And I looked in there, and my parents were on the bed in pools of sweat, and they were twisting side to side like they were trying to wake up. And then as I twisted a little more, I could see two of the same creatures that were with me, and they were standing over my parents' bed with their hands out. And it was like they were creating some kind of field to keep my parents asleep. And I looked at them, and they were these little creatures with the weirdly shaped heads and those big wraparound eyes. And one of the closest to me looked right at me, and I could see those eyes looking at me, and I looked right at it. And I just heard from him. I heard in my head, he's awake. And as soon as he said that, the cord was cut, and I just fell heavy into my bed like a sack of potatoes, and then they were gone. And they were gone, and that was it.
Is this why when you became an agent, were you even thinking about this stuff at the time?
Sure, because these experiences, and along with other experiences that occurred as well, were what gave me the impetus and the burning desire to become a professional investigator, to be able to continue to look at these things and find out what the real truth is behind them. Yeah, definitely.
That's incredible, man. That really just goes to, with all the research that I've done on this, that that they can move in and out of dimensions. A lot of people, I believe they just want to think that they're subject to the same physical laws that we are, but that's just like so we'll take the Dome of the Rock thing, for instance. Yeah. What I learned today, I was watching some videos that you were sharing with Michael Farah, and I didn't realize the level of what people do for disinfo. I know they put out videos to counter it and stuff, but yes. I mean, these videos, especially the satellite one, is so obvious. I mean, to me, it's so obvious that is real, and somehow or another they've got the public to believe that it's not.
I think you're talking about the 1996 tether incident.
The tether incident, not the Dome of the Rock one. Sorry, the tether incident. But the Dome of the Rock one, too, that was videotaped by all kinds of different people from different directions.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That was one of the most videotaped by unassociated, disinterested groups that had nothing to do with each other, different groups of tourists. Mm-hmm. That some of them were from the United States, some of them were from Israel, all other countries too. There were some that were French, and they had nothing to do with each other, and they all taped the same exact thing. The problem is, it doesn't matter what they taped. It doesn't matter, because you have these groups, these globalist funded squads, that as soon as something like that happens and it gets up on public databases, they are ready. They are there, and they are ready to take down those videos and put up fake ones, in order that the rush of millions and millions of people looking for Dome of the Rock UFO, they will be confronted with the bad fakes that are up there. And then they send the New York Times, they send CNN to look at the same fakes, and then the whole thing is taken care of. And it doesn't matter that the real videos make their way back on YouTube later, because the crush is over. The awakening is avoided. And the millions and millions of, mainstream people are put back to sleep.
More easily influenced as a mass society, it seems
like. Exactly.
But
and that happens all the time.
When you watch it individually, and you could take just somebody with a rational mind, like you, for instance, say, just look at these things. They're calling this debris. That is, these things are like navigating towards it like fish would. If you threw a piece of bread in the water, you know how fish go. That's not debris.
Yeah, the 1996 tether incident. Yeah, and the best they could do with that to cover it up is just, all they could really do is just have NASA say, it's ice particles, it's debris, and here's some scientists to explain to you how it could possibly be debris or ice particles. And these guys with a straight face would sit there and say things like, it's the rhythmic pulsing of the sun glinting off these ice particles that can be in perfectly round disc shapes, because snowflakes can be in any shape, and there is a percentage of snowflakes that could be perfectly round. And saying nonsense like that, and it's not good enough for an awakened person to believe that stuff, but for a mainstream person who's used to deferring to mainstream authorities, yeah, they'll say, "Oh, I guess that sounds okay." Yeah, it's a really sad situation. We used to have a saying in the FBI that you don't need to be a professional investigator, a trained investigator, to know when somebody's dropping bowling balls on your head, and because it's so obvious. But the problem is we have a society that's just so used to deferring to mainstream authorities that they just do it. They let go of their common sense, their own two eyes, and they just say, okay, well, if NASA says it's debris, I guess it must be true.
Well, when the To the Stars Academy first came out, there was a lot of skepticism about that, and I could tell you I was a little skeptical about it too, but I had this hope inside of me. You know what I'm talking about? Like maybe this is real. I want this to happen. I really did. I was on a round table talking about it, and the reason why a lot of people are skeptics because they're always let down about it. But I was hoping maybe they'll do something for once. I don't know. I mean, is there any hope for a real disclosure movement?
Yeah, but it can't have any involvement from the CIA and the Department of Defense, and like To the Stars Academy has, and what else? The Secretary of Defense office, and all these high CIA officials. You ain't gonna get anything real from anyone who's involved with those organizations and those groups. That's not gonna happen. It was too bad because, as you know, and as I know, Tom DeLonge himself is very sincere and very much believes in all this stuff. I mean, if you just see him talking, you can tell that he is very sincere. And that's probably why they picked him as a front man there for them. That's probably one of the reasons they picked him. But, I mean, looking at that rogues gallery of government guys that were behind him, that right away had to tell us an idea of how that movement was really going and what it really was. And now we found out that they were on December 16th of last year when they were doing that conference. They were actually standing Chris Mellon, one of the CIA guys, high officials from the CIA, an organization that has never been for disclosure of anything to anyone. He's standing in front of a Mylar balloon from a children's birthday party, as he was saying this could possibly be a UFO. Mm-hmm. And there's been several other discrepancies that have come to light after that really tell us what is really going on with that group. So I think they've been pretty much discredited at this point. And it's too bad because at least the first video that they showed, I thought really was very interesting as far as, but it looks like that's kind of collapsed now anyway. So because they haven't had anything else really to show that's been of any sort of consequence.
Yeah, it was. I think in the end it was just a move to, and I've said this a few times, just to push the mob back a little bit or something to get them back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or give them something and push them back.
Well, one thing that when you look at these things, and some of the methods I'm trying to teach people is when you have a piece of data that appears to be very important, you have to make a subject chart concerning it. And the crucial piece of data with the To the Stars Academy was this phrase where they were trying to take control of ufology, and they were trying to reorient the thinking into this new phrasing of, instead of saying UFOs, they wanted everyone to say unknown aerial phenomena and unknown aerial threat. That was their catchphrase that they wanted to let out to everyone and have everyone start using. So the real goal there was to have everybody start thinking in terms of unknown aerial threat. And if you do a subject chart on that phrase, the first people that I heard talking using those phrase was, number one, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton made an appearance where she started talking about she was going to release all the disclosure of all the UFO material. And she very carefully followed her script and said, unknown aerial phenomena and an unknown aerial threat. And then you had John Podesta, if anybody knows who that is, do the same thing. He started saying unknown aerial threat all over the place. And then you had a guy named Senator Harry Reid that started talking about ufology and started saying unknown aerial threat. And then, of course, Tom DeLonge started saying unknown aerial phenomena, unknown aerial threat. And then To the Stars Academy started also preaching the same phraseology. So what that tells me is that one of the big things about this operation that they wanted to do is to get us all hinked up about threats and to get us moving more towards the model of this impending alien invasion that's coming against us. And that would plug in naturally to increased space weaponization, which is a huge globalist agenda item. And that's really how I saw that whole train going. That's how I saw it.
Gotcha.
And I'm hoping that that has died out and that train hopefully has gone off the rails.
Yeah, I think there's hope for real disclosure, but we have to do it the right way. And you've worked in the government, so I'm going to ask you, because I've never had anyone that's worked in the government as far as this goes, like you on the show. So, I mean, you hear this a lot. Does the government, they have an agenda, some great master plan with alien visitors, and they're, it's this great conspiracy with aliens to take everything over. And I just, I don't know, just wondering what you think about all that since you've, worked in the Bureau.
Yeah, no, the government has mountains and mountains of data. If you go to the Air Force, you go to the FBI, you go to any of these agencies that deal with a lot of security stuff, they have mountains of data. But government, including the presidents, do not have some hidden plan, some overarching agenda that they were given by aliens or by anybody else. They don't have that. They can't do the type of disclosure that people think that they can do. None of the governments have that. All they have is a whole bunch of data about UFOs and sometimes even about alien visitors, but they don't have the plan. They don't have the agenda, the whole thing. No one in government has that. And so people who are begging for disclosure and think that they're going to get it sitting at Washington, D.C., they're sitting in the wrong place. They're sitting in the wrong place. That's all there is to it.
It sounds about right, because no matter where you are and there's somebody above you taking orders, and then eventually that person on the top is a puppet for somebody else. But we're going to take our first break here. We're already halfway through the show, guys. This stuff flies by. I want to talk to you about the Clear Hearers book, as well as the recent Stanford Science Department concerning that I'm probably going to say it wrong, with the Atacama little 6-inch humanoid deal. So
yep.
I know you've been studying that. So that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. This is interesting stuff. I'm just kind of focused in here because I want to get down to the real facts about this stuff. I think we all do. So we'll be right back with John DeSouza. You guys don't go anywhere.
This is Preston Dennett from PrestonDennett.weebly.com, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
What can I say about the most popular tea on the internet? And what do customers say about Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? A lot. But by federal law, we at GetTheTea.com cannot make claims to how this product can enhance your health. We cannot even post our testimonies without being in compliance. So how do we get past the hump? Try our products at GetTheTea.com and see for yourself. You can send us a testimony, but we just can't post it. Bummer. Our products are GMO-free and organic. We pride ourselves in being the best we can be, and we urge you to take charge of your health. We're 11 years strong, and many of our customers have shared their successes with friends and family. Protect your colon. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We are still getting strange on Sundays. Hey everyone, it's me, Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, letting you know we're on live Sunday nights right here on the Fringe FM. The Strange Sunday saga continues live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Listen on thefringe.fm or at beyondthestrange.com. Again, that's Sunday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific. See you there.
Tired of talking about the weather? No, Shift. Well, Shift Happens is here to fulfill your desires as you reach that point in life where you crave tantalizing conversation about reality, ufology, the occult, and the conspiracies within, while simultaneously finding yourself desperately in need of your very own theme music, which we've got plenty of that too. So be sure to tune in to Shift Happens every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Because the weather sucks, and you need some theme music.
A Fringe FM listeners, guess what? TalkStream Live has just released a new paranormal app exclusively for the paranormal community called Paranormal Radio. Paranormal Radio has a great selection of streaming talk shows dealing with UFOs, the supernatural, sacred geometry, NDEs, and much more, including a network highly recommended, The Fringe FM. You can download Paranormal Radio right now from Google Play and the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Rupe. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Thank you for enduring the commercial break. I really appreciate that. We're here with John DeSouza, X-Man and author, researcher, investigator. I want to talk about this this mummy, this little. I don't know if we could call it humanoid, and I was going to call it an android, but it's an incredible looking thing.
No, humanoid is perfect. Actually, I was given that by Dr. Greer. It's a perfect term to use, humanoid, because humanoid means not human. A non-human species, but that has like 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. So it's, somewhat. So in other words, a gorilla is a humanoid.
Gotcha.
Or
okay.
A chimpanzee is humanoid, but it's not human.
It doesn't matter the size as long as it's, functions and looks like a human. Well, this thing's as big. It's as big as your hand. And am I saying that right? Is it Atacama?
Yeah. The Atacama Desert humanoid mummy. Yeah.
So what's the deal with it? I mean, are they trying to bash that as something fake as well right now?
No, what happened with this was that we have a 6-inch, and anybody can go on my Facebook or on my Facebook, John DeSouza, and look at the pictures of this thing and then see them. It's basically just a 6-inch mummy that has been preserved, and it is obviously non-human. It appears it has a different number of ribs than a human does. It has a head that is shaped what you would think an alien would be shaped like. It has that sort of cone head and it has eye sockets that create those wraparound kind of eyes that we associate with alien. And it has several other variations that in its body that are not human, even besides the size, which is just 6 inches. And it was something that was discovered in Atacama, and anybody can Google image it also to see all the pictures I'm talking about. And it was discovered out of the Chile desert, in Atacama Desert in Chile, and was brought forward. And the first famous person that got their hands on it was Dr. Stephen Greer. And he brought it forward, and he brought it forward to Stanford, to the Stanford University Science Department, where he had a PhD who's a friend of his, a man who guaranteed Stephen Greer, he did the preliminary genetic tests on it. And the preliminary genetic tests showed what? They showed a couple of things. They showed, first of all, this thing had almost a 10% difference in genetic structure from human. Now, now I'm not a scientist, so I need things in real simple terms. And the simplest way to put it is that a chimpanzee or a gorilla only has 1% difference from human genetic structure. 1%. That's all it is. That's all it takes to be a different species. 1% difference in genetic structure. Now, this thing, this 6-inch alien mummy was genetically tested so that they could see it wasn't it's not a doll, it's not some fake fraud thing put together. It was a living biological tissue thing. It's a real humanoid creature that was alive at a certain time in the past.
This thing is freaky looking, man. I'm looking at the pictures of it and going through it. It is wild looking.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was given. So once Dr. Greer had it, he gave it over to this PhD, who is the head of Stanford Science Department, who's a friend of his also. And he was a fellow scientist. And also the preliminary findings, because they found 10%, almost 10% difference in the genetic structure in the chromosomes of this thing from human, that makes it very likely non-human species. Okay, very likely. Also, there's like nine differences, different number of ribs from human and other structural things that also it couldn't be a fetus because the skull was completely fused. If you've seen those pictures, you can see it's not a fetus. It's a skull. It's completely fused, and all the joints are completely fused also. In other words, it's a creature that was up and walking around for many years because you can tell from the thickness and density of the bones. So that was another preliminary finding. Okay, so those preliminary findings, then it was given to Stanford Science Department, and they did the deep genetic testing, okay, the pairing of chromosomes and stuff like that, which takes over a year to do. Okay, so then the thing was taken out of the public consciousness. It was just, forgotten about. So then they did all the testing, which supported the preliminary findings, okay? Supported the preliminary findings. But then at the end, which just happened just a few weeks ago, maybe just a month ago, the Science Department of Stanford, he double-crossed Dr. Greer. He double-crossed Stephen Greer, and he completely came up with a conclusion out of thin air, basically, that said, oh, guess what? It's actually a human fetus. It's a human fetus. That's all it is. And all those differences that you see in it, it's because and that way he justified the size. It's just 6 inches. So he said, oh, it's just a human fetus. And they say, oh, in all those genetic differences, you see different number of ribs, difference there. All these are just they're mutations.
I remember this now because I remember everything about it, and I got I guess you can say fooled too, because I thought once they debunked it, I was done. See, that's
of course because they're scientists. Of course, why would they not tell the truth? Of course,
somebody got a paycheck.
Yeah. Oh boy, you don't know. You don't know the half of it. Anyway. So then the head of the Stanford Science Department, whose name escapes me right now, because I'm so angry over this, I probably just blocked it out, his name. And he basically just came up with that conclusion, put it out in a white paper, and his conclusion is not supported at all by all the genetic testing that he just went through for a year and did on this, because the preliminary findings were what supported. Okay. This is a non-human species. Okay. Now he put that out, and it was fed directly to New York Times, CNN, Huffington Post, and all the mainstream fake news outlets all over the world. And all of those outlets reported the headline, oh, guess what, folks, this alien looking thing, it turned out it's just a human fetus. And then they didn't report anything about the actual genetic testing. None of the newspaper of the outlets, of the mainstream media outlets, reported anything about the genetic testing. Why? Because the genetic testing didn't support what he put out as the conclusion. Not at all. It just didn't. So they carefully avoided actually talking about the actual genetic testing, and all they talked about was all the speculation that it was an alien, how it turned out not to be true, and it's just a human fetus after all. It's just a bunch of mutations, and all that conclusion, the entire conclusion, was not science. None of it was based on science. It was based on nothing. So, like I said, so now Dr. Stephen Greer is trying to. I mean, there's no greater scientist than Dr. Stephen Greer. And so he's trying to, because we cannot let this go. This can be the moment when we expose mainstream science and mainstream media and the fakery that they have done against us, because this is a slap in the face. This is like scientists just spitting in our faces and telling us it's raining. Because that's the level of outrage that this is at this point. So we need to support Dr. Greer, and we need to support fighting against this incredible outrage that has gone forward. People need to look into this. They need to look into this. They need to question the Stanford University Science Department, and what they have done here. Because this can't stand.
I think you're right about, okay, just on the psychological part of this, and I'll tell you why. I'm looking in the chat room right now, and people are already talking about it. I remembered it because of the Sirius movie about it. Or it was called Sirius.
Yes.
And I remember this now, and I was like, okay, they found out that it was, not real or whatever. And you know what? My mind let it go. And so did everybody else's mind.
Yes. That's what they do. That's what they're counting on. That's why they put out these fake conclusions, and they figure there's going to be no consequences. Well, there has to be consequences this time. This is the moment. We cannot let this go. We have got to come back on this, because this is the moment when we can reveal the world we're truly living in. Because let me tell you, because if you want to talk science, this thing that they did, this conclusion, that's not science. And if you want to talk about, and if anybody wants to pull the science card on this thing, there's no greater scientist than Dr. Stephen Greer. He is the guy who knows what science is. And he said what these guys did out here was junk science. This conclusion that they produced that was based on nothing. They basically looked at all the work that they had done, the genome pairing for over a year, and they basically just ignored it and said, okay, we got a bait and switch here, and we got to put out a conclusion that is amenable to the mainstream, to the elite powers in control who give us our paychecks. And guess what? We're not going to. And these scientists, this science department, they're not going to lose their. They're not going to lose their funding over this. They're not going to lose their peer review, their endowments, their grants. They are not about to lose all that stuff. Their tenure. The guy the PhD who made these findings,
it'd be like suicide tenure for him. That's why nobody wants to touch it.
He has tenure. He has tenure at science at Stanford University. You think he's going to give that up in order to find a new species of humanoid? No, he is not. Let me tell you. Let me tell you real quick. I'll tell you this way that people could maybe empathize with. When I was growing up in the public school systems of New York City, and I learned about guys like Lewis and Clark, discoverers, explorers, adventurers, I was taught that the greatest thing you could do is become an expert in some field, whether it's scientist or an explorer, archaeologist, and discover something new. Because you'd have something named after you, you'd be hoisted up on the shoulders of your peers and march down a parade down Main Avenue, boy, and you'd have a planet named after you, or you'd have some, like Lewis and Clark, you'd have a river named after you, or something new, and it'd be the most greatest thing you ever found out. Well, as I got older and I went through high school and college, I started finding out that that's actually not true. That we are living in a mainstream society. We are living in a society controlled by elite powers in control that don't want anything new discovered that's going to upset their apple cart. I found out that there were people out there trying to discover a new species called known by people as Bigfoot, and that those people, some of them thought they actually had the discovery down. and they did not have parties and accolades and celebrations in their favor. Not at all. I found out also that there had been, because I did deep research, the old-fashioned research into old newspapers from the 1800s, and I found out that there were many, and this sort of thing can only be done on something that used to be called microfiche, that most people will not know. Well, you're not going to know what that is.
Yeah, what is that?
You're young. It's an old kind of like film where you have paper records and in old dusty libraries, and you have so many books and papers, you have to reduce them to a type of film that's called microfiche. And so I used to study that stuff. You have to put it in the machine. Anyway, it's old-timey stuff. And I used to study that stuff and read newspapers from like the 1800s. And you know what? There were all kinds all around this country. There have been farmers, ranchers, landowners who have discovered bones of human giants in certain acreage, in certain fields. And they found them, and they would dig them up, and they would say, wow, this stuff, this is a new discovery. This is something totally new. I'm going to get rewarded for this. And what did they get? In every case, they got a visit from a fly team.
I was just going to ask you that. How fast do they get on this thing when this happens?
Real fast, because they would find out. You'd have a fly team that would, and sometimes this is in the newspaper articles. They would say, well, a team from the, what do you call this? The Smithsonian. And the Smithsonian is a global organization. And they would, well, let's put it this way. They would identify themselves as being from the Smithsonian. And of course, they wouldn't leave behind any identifying documents or anything of that sort, but they would just identify themselves as being from the Smithsonian. But they were basically operators who would travel all over the world, wherever these, not just in the United States, but in other countries too, wherever they would dig up these bones of humanoid giants, and they would find them. And guess what? This team would show up, this scientific team would show up, take the bones into their custody, tell the farmer or the rancher he would get great rewards, and then they would never hear from him again. And that would be it. And the evidence would disappear. That has happened so many times around in the United States and also in other countries as well. And because we are in this globally controlled structure, people who discover new things are not necessarily rewarded. They are not given accolades. And now so that's what I learned was the real world as I grew older, continuing research and investigation into these sorts of things. And instead, and that brings us to today, where the head of the Stanford Science Department, who refused to find a new species, refused to say that this was a humanoid creature, as he himself did during the preliminary findings that he shared with Dr. Greer earlier. What he got was, guess what? Only a couple of weeks right after he made that finding that was based on nothing, that this thing was a human fetus, he got a huge award. He got a huge award from who? Not from any scientific board. He got some huge award publicly from Department of Defense.
What does the Department of Defense have anything to do with it?
The United States Department of Defense. Isn't that curious? That's what I said. Isn't that curious? Some huge award and honor. He was honored by the Department of Defense of the United States. Why? Why? That's my question. And that's why we can't let this go. We've got to go after this. We've got to continue trying to get to the truth of this, because this is a big moment of weakness for the global forces, the elite powers in control that are so anxious to keep everything the same in their mainstream society. And so we need to keep after this and keep on asking questions, because this is not right. It's not right, and it cannot stand.
Shouldn't that be obvious to us by now, though? Why aren't we doing anything about it? I mean, even in the regular financial world, where we see, contracts that are just really bamboozled, like the mobsters would do over in the Middle East, or when they crush their electric car over and over again. All types of different things in our society that show us that what they're willing to do, yet when it comes to the paranormal or ufology, we don't want to believe. We're so quick to pass something off as, well, that was debunked.
Yeah, exactly. You know, how is it amazing that technology has moved forward in almost every area, and yet we're still driving cars that function on fossil fuel? How's that possible? For 100 years, basically, technology hasn't changed for cars. You know, that doesn't really make sense.
I'm with you in the chat room, Don, on this. It's kind of a morbid thing to do, but I will tell you, you can get online and look at several different fetuses and several different stages of growth, and they look nothing like, I'm even talking about morphed fetuses. This thing is completely wild looking. It is not from, well, I'm saying it's not from this world. Maybe it is. Who knows? Who knows?
No, these that's the other curveball here, is that these things are right here on Earth with us. Forget about outer space. These things are here, and not just this one, but apparently there's many other species of these types of humanoids on other continents as well. And Dr. Greer is getting samples of those things now too to continue this fight, because but the problem is, I mean, if you're going to still function in the scientific system and depend on science, mainstream science, to give us the truth, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know, we need to go outside the scientific system. We need to get investigators involved in this kind of thing, and they need to own this process, because what this fraud, what it leads us to, is the truth that this has been done very recently, over and over again, by these labs and these laboratories that keep on taking in these samples of these non-human species, and they keep on giving the results that are completely unconnected to the genetic testing that they do on these things. And there's several other incidences of these that I can point to that we need to go back and re-examine all of these, because apparently this is a script. This is a script that has been followed over and over again by scientific authorities and mainstream news.
Sometimes you just got to go with your gut too, John. You know, I mean, when you're watching a video, like, you know, the tether video, or even I've seen videos where I remember specifically, I've seen a video where, and it was in a Spanish country or something, where something little bitty jumped out of the trees or bushes like that and freaked everybody out. And I can't think of what the name of the video was, but it looked so real to me, right? And then you look in the comments, the first thing you see is this was debunked or that was fake, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay. I keep rewinding it and watching it, and I'm like, how is this fake? This isn't CGI. What is that? Nobody's.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The globalists have bots that crawl all over the internet that are basically specifically designed to tear down anything that is supernatural or paranormal. And they have bots that are programmed just for that purpose. And if you check them out, you always check them out. They never connect. They don't connect to a real person. They're just created just for that moment. And they're just like one sentence, you know, oh, this is fake. This was debunked. And there's thousands of those things out there. And because this is very, very important for the elite powers in control, it is very high priority for them to keep the paranormal under wraps, to keep ufology under wraps, and the realities of these things. They have to keep it under wraps. It's more important to them than controlling economics, controlling politics, because those things are not going to create an awakening. But this could. That's what they want to avoid.
But why, you would think that they'd want everybody to wake up. Well, I mean, wake up to the point of, do they really want us all stupid? I don't want to believe that, but I guess I'm stupid for believing that they wouldn't want us to be stupid, you know?
Yeah, they want us to live in their version of reality that they want to impose on us. One where none of these things exist, none of these things are real, because part of the problem is they know these things are real. They know that the version of reality they're trying to impose on us is false. But they need that because it's the only way they can keep their property. Their property is 99% of humanity that forms the mainstream. They're consumers. They're people that do exactly what they want, who work as laborers in their fields. And so that's what they have to keep control of. And that's what they'll do anything. They'll do anything to keep control of that. They'll perpetuate any fraud, any fakery in order to keep control of that mainstream herd that they want. And they could care less about you or me. Anyone, who's on the fringe of knowledge, anybody who is an independent thinker, there's so few of those that they don't care about them. They just have to keep a hold of their property. That's what they want.
Well, I want to delve into a little bit more about this and what you plan on doing in the future and what we can do, just as regular people in this world worried about these same things. What can we do to move this disclosure movement along? You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is Lighting the Void. Stick around.
Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS TDRS.
Contact, nice to be in orbit.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Rupe, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
On the Fringe FM, we rock the paranormal talk.
Greetings, I'm Space Boy. I started writing music at an early age, inspired by such synth stylings of the Pet Shop Boys, Erasure, Kraftwerk, Art of Noise, and 8-Bit. I have crafted my work into a hybrid of synth pop with modern electronica rock music of today, with pounding beats, high-energy arpeggios, soothing orchestral moods, and rock and roll! Space Boy will surely be a part of anyone's music collection, so head on over to spaceboymusic.com and get you some cool stuff.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out! That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Kids, don't drink and park. Accidents because, people. This has been a PSA brought to you by your friends at Shift Happens and The Fringe FM.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hi, this is Ryan Gable, host of the Secret Teachings radio show. If you are interested in ancient knowledge and hidden mysteries, as well as a unique and balanced perspective on conspiracies, symbols, and the occult, then join me every Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Fringe FM.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm here with X-Man and author John DeSouza. We were talking about the Atacama. I can't say that word. Atacama mummy. That's how you say it. Thank you, John. I appreciate you helping me on that. It just twists up in my head. But yes, I do remember it. I remember when it got debunked. But it's not, when I say debunked, right, that's a trigger word. You can tell right when you say it. It's a trigger word.
It's mind control word, just like conspiracy theorist. That's what it is. Anybody uses the words conspiracy theorist, they're not trying to open up ideas and open up communication. They're trying to control you from thinking. They're trying to stop you from thinking. And that's that's what the word debunked does too.
Well, I know you were telling me this at break too, and I do remember this about Jaime Maussan's deal with the fairy thing. That doesn't help at all either. I wonder how often that happens. When something else, just a real debunking case, really messes up the rest of the party, you know?
Right, it does. But the problem is there have been so many. This Atacama Desert 6-inch humanoid is not the first time it's been a real biological being that is a non-human species. Just a year ago, we had the Nazca mummy. Was brought forward by Gaia TV, and it was genetically tested. It was found to be in the preliminary. It was found to be non-human. It was found to be real. It was found to be a real, humanoid creature that had been alive. It had 3 toes and 3 fingers. Anybody can look it up. There were many, many pictures of it. And it had 3 toes and 3, and some people say, oh, that's just put together. That's just, somebody put, a 3-toe bird or something, plastered it on this mummy. And then, but the head was also shaped in that sort of alien cone head type of shape. And the bodies were too long and thin to be human. They were extremely slender and different from human. And so they did the preliminary genetic testing, and the preliminary genetic testing found as much as 30% difference they found, first of all, it was a humanoid biological creature, and found as much as 30% difference in the genetic structure from human. As much as 30%. That's an enormous number. And then they threw it to the labs. They threw it to these labs, and what Gaia did was Gaia was on the lookout for fakery, because they know sometimes these labs, guess what? These labs don't want to lose their licenses, you see? So if they were to come up, and it's like I said from my story from when I was a little kid, and when I thought I thought that discoverers and adventurers would be so rewarded for finding new things. And yeah, these labs know that's not true. And they need to renew their licenses every year. And guess what? If you find a new thing and declare that you found a new thing, it's going to put your license in danger. So Gaia knew that. So they used a dozen labs. They used a dozen labs to perform the genetic testing. And at the end of that whole process, guess what? They all came out with a conclusion that completely was not supported by the genetic testing. They all just came back with, yeah, thing is human. Yeah, it's human. It's human. No explaining the 3 toes, the 3 fingers, no explanation of the shape of the cone head, no nothing. Just, oh, it's human. These things are human. That's it. Nothing else.
Well, let's reiterate what you said about, a chimpanzee has 99% of the human genome in it, and it doesn't much look like me or you.
Yeah. Just a 1% difference from gorillas and chimpanzees from humans beings. 1% in genetic structure. That's all it takes to be a different species. And these things had as much, in the preliminary findings, they had this Nazca mummy. The Nazca mummy that everybody probably kind of remembers had as much as 30% difference from humans. And yet, after that year-long testing, that's like the pairing and all that, it's the really deep testing. Then suddenly, oh no, it's human. And the real fact, under real science, and Dr. Stephen Greer has said this, you can't have a variation of the final finding be so extreme from the preliminary finding. It's not possible under science. It's not possible. You can vary like maybe 1%, 2%, but you can't have a variation.
So you're really getting behind this. Then I can see why you're getting behind this, because this would actually, if you could get maybe just 1 or 2 other scientists to confirm it with Dr. Stephen Greer, that would change the world's paradigm.
Yeah, right. Except they never will. They never will, because they have to have their licenses renewed. If they're a lab, they have to have their grants, their tenure. They can't lose their tenure at the university. They can't. And so that's one place where I disagree with Dr. Greer, because Dr. Greer thinks Dr. Greer says this is all fake science. And he feels he can remedy it with real science, with true science. And I'm here to tell him that ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen, because there's too much power involved from the elite powers in control and the mainstream authorities. He's not going to be able to get an active scientist who's going to give up everything they've got in order to find a new species. They're just not going to do it. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. He might get a retired, scientist like he is to do it, but no, not someone active who's in a position that they have to protect. It's not going to happen. The only way this can be resolved is that somebody like Dr. Greer has to own the laboratory, or an investigator like me has to own the laboratory and own all the method of producing these results. That's the only way you're going to get to the truth, because science isn't going to get you there. That's the problem. And that's what they found out with the Nazca mummy as well. At the end of all that, and being so careful and using so many different labs, they found the same script over and over again, that all of these labs found a conclusion of, it's just human. Or they found, the genetics was too degraded. We couldn't find anything. It was one or the other. That's it. Because those labs could not find that the Nazca mummy was non-human humanoid. They could not, because they would lose their licenses. They would. That's just the way it is.
Well, the fact that it's mummified should show them something, I would think. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it gave them the ability to test all the genetics in every part of the body, and they saw that it was an integrated whole biological being that had been alive a short time ago. It wasn't, it wasn't a doll. It wasn't a composing of different beings or some sort of frauded up thing. But they were able to do all the testing. The testing is true. All the testing is done correctly. But then the conclusion is where they get to put in what they want in order to preserve their position in mainstream science. And that's exactly what they did. And this has not just happened. This has not just happened with the Atacama 6-inch desert mummy, or just with the Nazca mummy that came forward last year. This has happened. This happened with the Paracas skulls that were also tested by various laboratories that were brought forward by Lynn Marzulli and Chase Klotsky. And these things were the giant conehead skulls that had enough genetic material in them to be tested by several labs. And guess what? They followed the same script that these other labs followed. They did all the they did the preliminary findings that found a difference, a huge difference from human genetic structure. But they did all the testing properly for a long period of time. And then their conclusion just was, guess what? It was either genetics too degraded to determine, we don't know, right, or it was, it's just human.
Well, I'm in agreement with you on how it's not going to happen. I know a guy, I've had him on the show, it was Larry C. Kander, who had an object that was tested in a lab. Like, this object was not from this world. The metals in it just didn't go together. It was like an arts parts type of thing. And he goes around to all of these conferences. He shows everybody the work and the facts and the science behind it. And you would think that there would be swarms of people around this guy trying to figure out what this thing was. And, I mean, it even made my hand feel fuzzy when I touched it. It was so weird. And he still takes this thing around. He has been for years. He's been doing the Bob White thing, got behind his work with this device. And you're right. It hasn't changed anything. No one's going to do anything for him on it. And that just bothers me. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would tell him, hey, if you're going to submit that to a laboratory to get honest results, then you better have some kind of guarantee that you're going to renew their license somehow. You better be the governor of the state, and you better that you're going to renew their license if they make a finding that you have alien tech there that is beyond anything that has ever been seen on Earth. Because it's like I told you the story from when I was a little kid. Ain't nobody going to get hoisted up on anybody's shoulders for finding something new. They're just not in this society. And that's the problem we face.
And let's be honest, folks, and I'll be honest with you too, right here, right now. And I'll tell you, and this is important, I believe. It's very important to realize the psychology of this. When this happened, in both cases of the mummies, I dismissed it. I'll be honest with you. I dismissed it, not because I had any scientific evidence, or I watched the film, or I looked into it, or did any research. I'm telling you that I dismissed it because someone said that they found, and someone told me that a scientist debunked it, and that was good enough for me. Now, and I'm a truth seeker. Think about that.
Yeah.
So if it's not good enough for me, if that was good enough for me, then what about the rest of you? What about the rest of us? This is why disclosure is so hard, why we're probably never going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to get it under mainstream authorities and the people that we're told to trust. One of the most ridiculous phrases that I keep hearing over and over again is, well, today NASA revealed the following, or NASA believes that the following is true. And I hear that reported all the time. Oh, NASA has discovered the following. We have seen in the alternative community that there's actually been whistleblowers that come forward from NASA that said their entire job, they had 20, 30-year career at NASA, and all they did was erase structures on the moon, on satellite photos from the moon or Mars, and all they ever did was just erase structures. That's what they did, so that this could go out. These pictures could go out and show, or they had to change the shading of the moon so that we would think that the moon is just gray. That's all it is. It doesn't have any colors, because if you have colors, then you can see the structures. So, and all of these things have been proven as far as NASA over and over again. And yet people still look to NASA for honest statements of what's going on in outer space. So that's just, again, it's just our training from the time we're little kids. And we need to shake that off. We need to shake that off and do it fast. Because if we want to break through to be able to see what the world really is in front of our eyes, then the only way to do it is to break out of this paradigm where we defer to these mainstream authorities like the scientists and NASA and laboratories that are not telling us the truth.
Well, another thing too I wanted to ask you about is the reason why I believe that you're so convinced about all of this stuff and that you've been behind it for a long time now is because you were behind the curtain. You saw this stuff in investigations, and do we have like a real Men in Black type squad that investigates stuff like this in the FBI when you were with the Bureau?
No, not with the FBI. As a matter of fact, without telling too much, I can tell you that the Men in Black are far above the FBI or the CIA or any national institution. They are their own thing, and they have authority that transcends anything that the FBI could ever have. And I found that out up close and very painfully when I was in the FBI, and I sometimes had to deal with issues that concerned UFOs or alien tech. So yeah, they are something totally separate and above any national authority. And that's just the way it is.
It's like diplomatic immunity. They step in, and that's that, right?
Yes, yeah, very very similar to that, but I would say even stronger than that.
Wow, I will apologize right now, live, that I promise you from this point, Mr. DeSouza, that I will never dismiss anything again. I'm going to look into this a little bit more too. I can say that I was influenced by my peers as well, and I never looked into it because sometimes, just to be honest with you, I depend on and a lot, we all do. We depend on experts in our field to tell us the truth. People that study this stuff more than you and I do. I depend on them to tell me the truth, and it's sad to see because if Greer is right and if this whole thing is real, I can't imagine how angry he is right now.
Oh my gosh, he is beside himself. All you gotta do is look at one of his latest interviews, and you can see the poor guy. He's really being put through quite a bit, and so. I'm hoping that more and more people support him in this battle that we have going on, where he's taking on mainstream science authorities, and it's an uphill battle, and I just want everyone to do whatever they can to question, to comment. I mean, even just going on comments and putting in there, this thing looks like a real non-human species, no matter what anybody says. And, I have my common sense. I have my two eyes, and, I don't lose those just because there's a scientist talking. And that's just the way it is. We need that. We need anything you can do to red pill somebody on this Atacama desert alien, because this is the most outrageous thing that's been done in a very long time. And in order to pervert our reality and to twist our reality inside out, people just we have to rise up against this, and we have to break through to what the world really is.
And who knows what that is? Because if these things are true, then we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue what's going on out there.
Yeah, but we can start, and I ask people to go on my YouTube channel, John DeSouza on YouTube, and go look at some of the other stuff that has been perpetrated over you, like the Turkey UFO of 2008, the visible occupants UFO. It's called also the 2011 Dome of the Rock UFO, and the 1996 Tether incident. Just go look at this stuff that has been so carefully debunked by scientific authorities. and keep your common sense and keep your two eyes and see what you see. And then tell me who's lying to you, because the answer will come to you pretty quickly.
Now, if someone's never gotten into your work or your studies before, what is the first book you'd tell them to get from you?
I tell them to check out the Para Investigators, and you don't even have to buy it. Just go on Amazon and read the first 50 pages for free. First 50 pages, that's a lot. You can find out a whole lot of truth in just those 50 pages, a whole lot of wool pulled over your eyes in a lot of these mysteries and these things that have gone on. The Para Investigators is about the paranormal that has occurred in law enforcement and throughout law enforcement that people don't know about. Then I would say the Extra Dimensionals is my book on what the alien visitors are, who they are, what they're doing, what their agenda is. And I would tell them, just check again. You don't even have to buy it. Just check the first 50 pages on Amazon under John DeSouza for the Extra Dimensionals, and you will be blown away by what you can find out in just 50 pages. And then I have the Clear Hearers also, which is my book. That's more on consciousness and
what is really. We've got some questions in the chat room about that. We got a few minutes left, and I really want you to just talk about that a little bit, because we're very curious about how that relates to the paranormal here on this show.
Yeah, the Clear Hearers is actually about a completely, really new area of the paranormal, something that is really new but very ancient, and it's about an ability that people have that they don't overtly know about, because this world is designed in large part to keep us away from our own abilities and our own paranormal abilities. And so Clear Hearers are basically just people who hear a strong, clear voice of authority that comes to them and helps them during times of danger and times of difficulty. And it's something that uplifts them, helps them. And basically, Clear Hearers is a story of my investigation that began as a child. It's into a great voice that comes to me and to others, known as Clear Hearers. And it's basically, like I said, it saves lives. It rights wrongs. It's a voice that's not really heard, but it's felt. And it's a very powerful source. It's also a way shower, providing imagery, visions. It was Clear Hearers is based on Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was the first documented clear hearer in history. So even the word clairaudience came from her experiences. But there's been many others throughout history as well. So that's what Clear Hearers is about.
That's powerful stuff there. And a common parallel in this field right now. And I got a feeling, Mr. DeSouza, that I know you're an investigator and a researcher, and you're about facts and getting the truth out. But I also got a feeling that you're a deep spiritual man. And I'm really glad that you came on the show. It's been an interesting conversation.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, these topics ultimately require spiritual discernment. That's true. You got to use it and practice it, and it's like a muscle too. It has to be exercised, and it will help you in all of these areas, especially so that you know when there is deception afoot, because in these areas that is everywhere. That's why we need investigators, not scientists, to get us to the truth.
Oh, and you're going to be at aren't you going to be at Contact in the Desert as well?
Yes, I will be at Contact in the Desert, which will be, it's being called the Year of Disclosure, and it will be June 1st to the 3rd at Indian Wells, California. And we're going to have pretty much everybody is going to be there. And it will be a tremendous event. It's going to be crazy. And I hope people will come and have dinner with me. It'll be pretty cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it. It's been great.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. That was John DeSouza. Go check it out. All the links are on the website. I'll I'll see you Saturday at Spaced Out Saturday. If you're listening live, stay tuned for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. See you next week.